The massive council chamber stretched out like a crystal cathedral, its walls made of living light that pulsed with each word spoken. 12 different alien species sat in their designated seats, each one looking down at the small human delegation standing in the center of the room. The air hummed with translation devices, turning alien languages into words that humans could understand. Kim Dae-ho stood perfectly still, his hands clasped behind his back. As Earth's Prime Minister, he had seen many difficult meetings, but nothing like this. The weight of humanity's future pressed down on his shoulders like a mountain. Beside him, Park Soo-jin kept her face blank, though her eyes moved constantly, studying each alien delegate. Admiral Park had commanded fleets across 50 star systems, but today she felt small and outnumbered. Lee Woo-bin appeared calm, almost bored, as he scanned the room with lazy eyes. Most people thought the intelligence director was just another government official in an expensive suit. They never noticed how he seemed to see everything, remember everything, and forget nothing that mattered. Next to him, Choi Hai-wan shifted nervously. The xenobiologist knew these aliens better than any human alive, and that knowledge terrified her. "Humans of Earth," the voice boomed through the chamber like thunder. It came from Keth Myron, the Vorthak delegate whose crystal body caught the light and threw rainbows across the floor. "You have been called before this council to answer for your crimes against galactic peace." Kim Dae-ho did not flinch. He had expected this moment for years, ever since human colonies began spreading faster than anyone had predicted. "We are listening," he said simply. Keth Myron's crystal form shifted, creating new patterns of light. "In the past century, your species has established colonies on 47 worlds. You reproduce without limits. You advance your technology at a dangerous speed. You refuse to follow the population controls that keep other species stable and peaceful." Other delegates began to speak, their voices mixing into an angry chorus. The Zephyrians complained that humans took too many resources. The Mokari worried that human ships moved too fast through their space. The Thessian Empire claimed that human traders were too aggressive, too pushy, too willing to make deals that other species would never consider. Park Soo-jin felt her jaw tighten as she listened to the complaints. Every accusation was true, but they made human success sound like a crime. Humans worked harder than most species, bred faster than most species, and dreamed bigger than most species. Now they were being punished for it. "You are young and reckless," said Velthari, the ancient ethereal who claimed to be over 3,000 years old. Her voice sounded like wind through dead leaves. "You expand without wisdom. You grow without patience. You are becoming a threat to the order we have maintained for millennia." Lee Woo-bin almost smiled. For 30 years, his intelligence network had been watching the council, studying their fears, mapping their weaknesses. He had predicted this meeting down to the month. The aliens were not angry at human success. They were terrified of it. Fear made them dangerous, but it also made them predictable. "What do you want from us?" Kim Dae-ho asked. Keth Moran's crystal body flared brighter. "You will abandon all colonies beyond your home system. You will recall all humans to Earth within 30 standard galactic cycles. You will submit to council monitoring and accept limits on your population and technology. You will learn to live peacefully within your proper boundaries." The chamber fell silent. Choi Hai-wan could hear her own heartbeat. She had studied these species for decades, and she knew they were serious. The council had destroyed other problem species before. The Corvani had been reduced to a single world when they refused council demands. The Zentari had simply disappeared one day, their worlds left empty, and their colonies turned to glass. "And if we refuse?" Park Soo-jin asked, though she already knew the answer. "Then we will take corrective action," Moran replied. "Your colonies will be removed. Your fleets will be destroyed. your species will learn its proper place in the galactic order, one way or another. Kim Dae-ho looked around the chamber one more time. 12 species, each one more advanced than humanity, each one with fleets that could burn Earth to ashes. The math was simple and brutal. Humanity was outnumbered, outgunned, and out of time. "How long do we have to consider your offer?" he asked. "This is not an offer," Velthari said coldly. "This is an ultimatum. You have 7 standard days to give us your answer." The human delegation was escorted from the chamber in silence. They walked through corridors filled with aliens who stared at them with mixtures of pity and disgust. Some whispered among themselves about the aggressive humans who had finally been brought to heel. Others seemed almost sad that it had come to this. Back in their diplomatic quarters, the 4 humans sat around a simple table. The walls were certainly monitored, so they spoke carefully about unimportant things. But their eyes said everything that words could not. Kim Dae-ho poured tea with steady hands. "The weather on Kepler 442b is supposed to be nice this time of year," he said casually. It was code, meaningless to anyone listening, but Lee Woo-bin understood immediately. The evacuation plans were already in motion. "I heard the mining operations on Gliese 6X7C are ahead of schedule," Park Soo-jin added. Another code. The fleet movements had begun weeks ago. Choi Hae-won sipped her tea and nodded. "My research on adaptive camouflage in deep space organisms is making good progress." She might as well have said that humanity's greatest secret was ready to be deployed. Lee Woo-bin said nothing, but he smiled slightly. For 30 years, he had prepared for this day. Hidden bases in asteroid fields, sleeper agents in every council world, technology that made human ships invisible to alien sensors. The greatest deception in galactic history was about to begin. 7 days later, Kim Dae-ho stood before the council again. The crystal chamber felt even more hostile than before, as if the walls themselves wanted humanity gone. "Have you reached a decision?" Keth Myron asked. Kim Dae-ho bowed slightly, the gesture of a man accepting defeat. "We have. Earth will comply with all council demands. We will begin evacuating our colonies immediately and return all humans to our home system within the required time limit." The chamber erupted in satisfied murmurs. The crisis was over. The dangerous humans had finally learned their place. Galactic peace would continue for another 1,000 years. Only Lee Woo-bin noticed the tiny smile that flickered across Kim Dae-ho's face for just a moment. The game was beginning, and the council had no idea they had already lost. Captain Yoon Ji-hoon stood on the bridge of the massive transport ship New Seoul, watching as another group of colonists boarded through the docking tubes. The ship was enormous, designed to carry 50,000 people at once, and it was just one of hundreds making the same journey. All around him, screens showed other evacuation ships loading passengers, supplies, and equipment from the human colony of Kepler 442b. "Captain, we're at full capacity," reported his first officer. "All 50,000 passengers are secure in their quarters." Yoon Ji-hoon nodded and activated the ship-wide communication system. "Attention passengers, this is your captain. We will be departing for Earth in 10 minutes. Please remain in your assigned areas during the journey home." But the people boarding his ship were not really going home. Half of them were not even people at all. 3 decks below, Song Mi-young supervised the loading of what appeared to be personal belongings and furniture. She wore the uniform of a colonial dismantling officer, and her clipboard showed thousands of items being shipped back to Earth. The council observers watching from their monitoring station saw exactly what they expected to see: humans packing up their lives and abandoning their dreams of expansion. They could not see the advanced holographic projectors hidden inside the furniture crates. They could not detect the quantum computers disguised as children's toys. They missed the military-grade shield generators that looked like kitchen appliances. Song Mi-young had spent 15 years learning how to hide the most advanced technology in the galaxy inside the most ordinary objects. "Ma'am, the last container is loaded," one of her assistants reported. Like Song Mi-young, he was not really a dismantling officer. He was a specialist in making impossible things disappear completely. "Good. Signal the other ships that we're ready for departure," Song Mi-young replied. She looked out the window at the colony that had taken 30 years to build. Tomorrow the buildings would still be here, but they would be empty shells. All the real equipment, all the valuable research, all the secret projects, everything that mattered was already gone. On the planet's surface, Bae Tae-hyun walked through the Colonial Administration building one last time. He wore a simple, maintenance uniform, and everyone who saw him thought he was just another worker preparing the building for abandonment. Nobody suspected that Bae Tae-hyun was one of the most dangerous men in human space, the coordinator of resistance cells, on 47 different worlds. As he worked, Bae Tae-hyun activated hidden communication devices throughout the building. Each device was smaller than a grain of rice and would remain active for decades, allowing human agents to stay in contact even after the colony appeared to be abandoned. He had done this same work on every human world, creating an invisible network that would survive anything the Council might do. "Network is active and tested." He spoke quietly into what looked like a simple cleaning tool. "All cells are in position and ready for long-term operations." The voice that answered came from someone thousands of light years away. "Confirmed. Phase 2 begins in 72 hours. Good luck, Tae-hyun." Bae Tae-hyun smiled as he finished his work. The Council thought they were watching humanity retreat in defeat. Instead, they were watching the largest military redeployment in galactic history. In the deep space between star systems, Han So-young piloted her small scout ship through the empty darkness. Her ship was invisible to every known sensor system, using technology that humanity had developed in secret for over 50 years. She had spent the last 6 months mapping Council military bases, trade routes, and communication networks. Every secret the Council had, Han So-young now knew. "Patrol ship approaching," her computer warned. "Council heavy cruiser, Zephyrian design." Han So-young smiled and made a small adjustment to her ship's position. The cruiser passed within a few thousand kilometers of her location, its massive bulk blocking out the stars. The alien crew never knew she was there. Their sensors showed only empty space. As the cruiser disappeared into the distance, Han So-young returned to her work. She was photographing a secret Council supply depot hidden in an asteroid field. The depot supplied weapons to a dozen different Council fleets, but it was poorly defended because the Council believed it was perfectly hidden. After today, humanity would know exactly how to find it and exactly how to destroy it. "Another gift for the archives," she said to herself, storing the detailed scans in her ship's heavily encrypted database. "The Council is going to regret teaching us how to be sneaky." Back on Kepler 442b, the Council monitoring station tracked every ship that left the planet. The alien observers carefully counted passengers, measured cargo loads, and verified that the evacuation was proceeding according to their demands. Their reports back to the Council were filled with satisfaction. The dangerous humans were finally contained. What they did not know was that the passengers on the evacuation ships included thousands of highly sophisticated androids and holographic projections. The real human colonists had been quietly relocated months ago to hidden bases, in nearby asteroid fields and rogue planets that drifted in the dark spaces between stars. Advanced stealth technology made these bases invisible to Council sensors, and self-contained life support systems allowed them to operate independently for decades. The Council observers also failed to notice that many of the evacuation ships never actually reached Earth. Instead, They disappeared into hyperspace and traveled to secret coordinates where they unloaded their real cargo, weapons, equipment, and technology that would be needed for the next phase of humanity's plan. Yoon Ji-hoon's ship was one of the few that actually did travel all the way to Earth, but his cargo was not what it appeared to be. Instead of frightened colonists, his passengers were volunteers who would maintain the illusion that humanity was beaten and contained. They would live on Earth, work ordinary jobs, and convince the Council that the human threat had been eliminated. Meanwhile, the real human civilization continued to grow and expand in places the Council never thought to look. Hidden shipyards produced vessels that were generations ahead of anything the Council possessed. Secret research stations developed new technologies that would have amazed even human scientists from just a few years earlier. Training facilities prepared soldiers for a war that might never come, but would be won decisively if it did. Song Mi-young supervised the loading of the last ship to leave Kepler 442b. As the transport lifted off, she looked down at the empty colony one final time. To Council eyes, it would appear that humanity had given up everything they had worked for. They would see abandoned buildings, empty streets, and the defeat of human ambition. They would never see the truth, that humanity had not retreated at all. They had simply learned to hide in plain sight, growing stronger in the darkness while their enemies celebrated a victory that existed only in their own imaginations. The Great Deception had begun, and the Council had no idea what was coming. 2 years had passed since the human evacuation ended, and the Galactic Council chamber buzzed with satisfied energy. The 12-member species had gathered for their regular meeting, but today felt special. Today, they would discuss how to divide the territories that humans had abandoned. Counselor Vex Thara stood at the center of the chamber, her 6 arms gesturing dramatically as she spoke. The hegemony representative had pushed hardest for the human containment, and now she was claiming her reward. The former human colony on Kepler 442b has been assigned to our mining operations, she announced. Our surveys show rich deposits of quantum crystals that the primitive humans never discovered. Around the chamber, other delegates nodded approvingly. The Zephyrians had claimed the agricultural worlds. The Mokari took the systems with the best trade routes. The Thessian Empire grabbed the planets closest to their own territory. Everyone got something from humanity's defeat. It is as it should be, said Velthari, the ancient ethereal who rarely spoke during meetings. Order has been restored. The dangerous expansion has been stopped. Peace will continue for another 1,000 years. But not everyone in the chamber felt completely comfortable with the new arrangements. Ambassador Zulketh, representing the Kalari Union, shifted nervously in his seat. His species had always been more cautious than the others, and something about the human surrender still bothered him. Counselor Vex Thara, he said carefully, have your people found any trace of advanced human technology on the worlds they have claimed? The humans were known for their rapid technological development. Vexathara's primary eyes focused on him with irritation. We found empty buildings and abandoned equipment, nothing more. The humans took their toys with them when they ran home to their little planet. Zulketh was not satisfied with that answer, but he said nothing more. His species had survived for millions of years by being careful, by watching for dangers that others missed. Something felt wrong about this victory, but he could not explain. What? On Earth, Ryu Jae-sung sat in his small office in the Human Diplomatic Center, reading reports that would have terrified the Council if they had understood their true meaning. As Earth's official representative to the galaxy, he was supposed to be keeping humanity peaceful and contained. Instead, he was helping coordinate the largest secret military operation in galactic history. His door chimed, and a council inspector entered without waiting for permission. The Vorthak official's crystal body gleamed as he moved, and his voice carried the authority of someone who expected instant obedience. Representative Ryu, "I am here for the monthly compliance inspection," the inspector announced. "Present the population reports, resource consumption data, and technological development limits verification." Ryu Jae-sung stood and bowed politely. "Of course, Inspector Kraltek. All documents are prepared and waiting for your review." The inspector spent 2 hours examining fake reports that showed humanity living quietly on Earth, using only the resources they were allowed, developing no new technology beyond what the Council permitted. Every number was perfect. Every document was exactly what the Council expected to see. What Inspector Kraltek could not see were the quantum-encrypted messages hidden in the computer systems around him. Messages that coordinated supply shipments to secret bases, messages that reported the construction of new stealth ships, messages that planned operations the Council could not even imagine. "Everything appears to be in order," the inspector finally announced. "Humanity continues to comply with all Council regulations. Earth remains properly contained." As soon as the inspector left, Ryu Jae-sung activated a secure communication device hidden inside what appeared to be a simple desk lamp. "Phase 3 is proceeding on schedule," he reported quietly. "The Council suspects nothing." Far from Earth, Ko Min-seo worked late in her office at Council Intelligence Headquarters. To her alien colleagues, she was just another analyst studying reports from across the galaxy. They had no idea that she was actually one of humanity's most valuable assets, feeding false information to the Council while gathering their most important secrets. Tonight, she was reviewing reports of strange incidents across Council space, ships disappearing near asteroid fields, unexplained energy readings in systems that were supposed to be empty, pirates and smugglers vanishing without a trace. The reports were scattered across dozens of systems, and no one else had noticed the pattern. But Ko Min-seo could see what the Council could not. Each incident corresponded perfectly with the locations of humanity's hidden bases. Human forces were becoming active again, but they were being very careful to make their operations look like random accidents or natural phenomena. She modified the reports slightly before passing them on to her supervisors. A ship disappearance became a navigation error. An energy reading became interference from a nearby star. A missing pirate fleet became a conflict between criminal groups. The Council's own intelligence service was helping to hide humanity's activities. "Another quiet night in Council space," she wrote in her weekly summary report. "No significant threats detected." The changes Ko Min-seo made were small, but their effect was enormous. The Council continued to believe that humanity was contained on Earth while human forces actually grew stronger with each passing day. Secret shipyards produced new vessels, hidden research stations developed advanced weapons, training facilities prepared soldiers for operations that would shock the galaxy. In the Council chamber, the regular monthly meeting continued with discussions of new regulations and territory assignments. Councillor Vexithera proposed stricter monitoring of other potentially dangerous species. Several delegates supported the idea, saying that humanity's threat had shown them the need for better control. "We must never allow another species to expand as recklessly as the humans did," Vexithera declared. "The new monitoring protocols will ensure that no young species can threaten galactic peace again." The other delegates agreed enthusiastically. They created new rules limiting how fast other species could develop technology. They established inspection teams to monitor colonial expansion. They gave themselves the authority to relocate entire populations if necessary. What they did not realize was that their new policies were driving more species to secretly contact humanity. The Javari, a peaceful trading people, had quietly approached, human agents asking for protection from Council restrictions. The Neth, skilled engineers whose technology development had been limited by new Council rules, were secretly sharing their knowledge with human researchers. Ambassador Zulketh watched the new policies being approved with growing concern. His people had taught him that oppression always created the enemies it claimed to prevent. By trying to stop another human situation, The Council was actually creating conditions that would make such situations more likely. But when he tried to voice his concerns, the other delegates dismissed him as being too cautious. They were too busy celebrating their victory over humanity to notice that their victory might be an illusion. As the meeting ended, the delegates returned to their homeworlds satisfied that galactic peace was secure. They did not know that human agents watched their every move, that human technology could penetrate their most secure communications, or that human forces were already positioned to strike at targets throughout Council space. The Council had won, a battle that never happened against an enemy who had never been defeated. Soon they would learn the difference. Commander Na Hyun-woo floated silently in the pilot seat of his stealth ship, watching a Council patrol fleet move through what they thought was empty space. The alien ships had no idea that 30 human vessels surrounded them, invisible and waiting. Na Hyun-woo's shadow fleet had been tracking Council movements for months, learning their patterns, mapping their weaknesses. "Commander, the patrol is entering Sector 7. His communications officer whispered. "Shall we proceed with the operation?" Na Hyun-woo studied the tactical display one more time. The Council patrol consisted of 12 heavy cruisers, enough firepower to destroy a small planet. But they were flying blind through space that humans now controlled completely. "Begin Phase 1, he ordered quietly. What happened next would be reported by the Council as a tragic accident. The lead cruiser's navigation system suddenly failed, causing it to veer off course. In trying to avoid collision, 2 other ships crashed into an asteroid that their sensors somehow missed. The remaining ships tried to call for help, but their communications were mysteriously jammed by interference from a nearby pulsar. By the time rescue ships arrived 6 hours later, they found only debris and emergency beacons. The official report blamed the disaster on equipment failure and bad luck. No one suspected that the entire patrol had been destroyed by an invisible enemy they did not know existed. "Clean operation," Na Hyun-woo reported to his superiors. "No evidence of human involvement. The Council will blame their own equipment again." Across the galaxy, similar incidents were becoming more common. Council Intelligence Director Velnok studied the reports with growing frustration. In the past year, his organization had lost contact with dozens of ships, experienced failures in communication networks across 15 systems, and dealt with equipment breakdowns that made no sense. "These cannot all be accidents," he told his staff during their weekly briefing. "Ships do not simply vanish. Communication arrays do not fail simultaneously across multiple star systems. Someone is targeting our operations." His analysts, including the human agent Ko Min-seo, nodded in agreement. But their investigations always led nowhere. There was never any evidence of outside interference, never any trace of enemy activity, never any explanation except bad luck and equipment failure. Ko Min-seo carefully steered the investigation away from the truth while appearing to be helpful. "Perhaps we should examine our equipment suppliers," she suggested. "Maybe there are quality control problems causing these failures." It was a reasonable suggestion that would waste months of investigation time while keeping attention away from the real cause of the Council's problems. Ko Min-seo had become an expert at making the Council's own intelligence service work against itself. Meanwhile, Seo Dong-min operated his underground railroad from a secret base hidden in an asteroid field near the Kalari system. His organization had become legend among the oppressed species of Council space, a mysterious network that could make entire populations disappear overnight, taking them to safety in places the Council could never find. "We have another group requesting extraction," his assistant reported. 300 Neth engineers and their families. The Council wants to relocate them to a labor world because their technology development exceeded permitted limits. Seo Dong-min studied the request carefully. The Neth were brilliant engineers whose work could be very useful to humanity's secret projects. But more importantly, They were innocent people who deserved freedom from council tyranny. Approved. Send extraction. Team 7 to pick them up. Make sure they understand this will look like an industrial accident. A transport ship explosion with no survivors. Within days, the 300 Neth engineers would officially be dead, killed in a terrible explosion during their forced relocation. In reality, they would be living safely in human space, working on projects that would help liberate more of their people. The council would mourn the tragedy while never suspecting they had been outmaneuvered by the very humans they thought they had defeated. Lim Yunbi specialized in a different kind of warfare. From her hidden command center, she orchestrated psychological operations designed to make the council increasingly paranoid and distrustful. Her team planted false evidence of spy networks, created rumors of internal betrayal, and manipulated information to make council members suspect each other. The hegemony delegation is reporting unusual behavior from the Zephyrian representatives, one of her analysts reported. They believe the Zephyrians may be secretly negotiating with the Thessians. Lim Yunbi smiled. The report was completely false, based on carefully manipulated communications that her team had intercepted and modified. But it would cause the hegemony to become suspicious of their allies, leading to internal conflict that would weaken the council from within. Excellent. Make sure similar reports reach the Zephyrian intelligence service. Let them believe the hegemony is plotting against them. Fear and suspicion will do more damage to the council than any weapon we could build. The psychological campaign was working perfectly. Council members were becoming increasingly suspicious of each other, spending more time investigating internal threats than watching for external ones. They were so focused on finding enemies within their own ranks that they never noticed the real enemy growing stronger all around them. Im Yu-jin coordinated all of these operations from a secret facility that officially did not exist. As director of covert operations, she managed thousands of agents, hundreds of secret bases, and dozens of ongoing missions designed to weaken the council while keeping humanity's involvement completely hidden. Status report, she requested during her daily briefing with department heads. Shadow Fleet operations are proceeding on schedule, reported Na Hyun-woo's representative. Council patrol losses are up 40%, but they still believe the incidents are accidents. Underground Railroad has successfully extracted over 50,000 refugees this year, Seo Dongmin's coordinator added. The council believes they died in various disasters and industrial accidents. Psychological operations have created serious trust issues between council members, Lim Yunbi's analyst reported. Their internal security spending has increased by 200% as they investigate threats that do not exist. Im Yu-jin nodded with satisfaction. Every part of the plan was working exactly as intended. The council was becoming weaker, more paranoid, and more divided with each passing month. Meanwhile, humanity's secret empire continued to grow in strength and numbers. Any signs that the council suspects human involvement in these incidents? She asked. None, Ko Min-seo's handler replied. Their intelligence service remains convinced that humanity is contained on Earth. Our agents continue to misdirect their investigations away from the truth. Im Yu-jin allowed herself a small smile. The council had created their own doom the moment they decided to threaten humanity. By forcing humans to hide, they had created an invisible enemy that could strike anywhere while remaining completely undetected. Continue all operations as planned. Phase 4 begins next month. The council is about to learn that their greatest victory was actually their greatest mistake. The meeting ended, and the coordinators returned to their secret work. Across the galaxy, human agents continued their missions. Human ships moved through invisible networks, and human bases prepared for the day when the shadows would finally step into the light. The council still believed they had won. Soon they would discover how wrong they were. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was unlike anything in their 1,000-year history. Delegates rushed into the crystal chamber with faces full of panic and fear. Half the council's military fleets had vanished overnight. Communication. Networks across 12 systems had gone completely dark. Entire worlds had lost contact with the central government. Counselor Vexithara stood in the center of the chamber, her 6 arms shaking with rage and terror. "This is impossible!" she screamed. Our entire defense fleet at Proxima Station simply disappeared. 60,000 personnel, gone without a trace. Ambassador Zulketh watched the chaos with grim satisfaction. He had warned them years ago that their victory over humanity felt wrong. Now his worst fears were coming true, but there was no pleasure in being right. "What do our intelligence services report?" he asked quietly. Kominseo, still playing her role as a loyal council analyst, stood to address the chamber. "Our investigation teams have found no evidence of enemy action. The missing fleets appear to have suffered simultaneous system failures. The communication blackouts seem to be caused by solar interference and equipment malfunctions. It was a masterful lie." Kominseo knew exactly what had happened to the missing fleets because she had helped plan their destruction. But her false reports kept the council confused and reactive instead of taking effective action. Solar interference. "Does not destroy 60 ships at once," Vexithara shouted. "Someone is attacking us! Someone has technology we cannot detect!" The chamber erupted in frightened voices as delegates accused each other of secret attacks and hidden conspiracies. The psychological operations that Lim Yunbi had carefully orchestrated were paying off perfectly. The council could not work together because they no longer trusted each other. Then the lights in the chamber flickered and went out. When emergency power restored partial lighting, a figure stood in the center of the room where no one had been before. Kim Dae-ho, former Prime Minister of Earth, looked exactly as he had 3 years ago when he had supposedly surrendered to council demands. He wore a simple black suit and carried no weapons, but his presence filled the chamber with electric tension. "Greetings, counselors," he said calmly. "I believe we need to talk." The chamber exploded into chaos. Security alarms blared as guards rushed toward the human. But their weapons would not fire. Their communication devices remained silent. Even their personal force fields failed to activate. "Your security systems are currently under my control," Kim Dae-ho explained with a slight smile. "Please, sit down. This will only take a few minutes." General Oh Seung-hwan materialized beside Kim Dae-ho as his stealth suit deactivated. The Supreme Commander of Human Forces looked like he could crush any alien in the chamber with his bare hands. Behind him, more human figures appeared as their advanced camouflage systems switched off. The council chamber was suddenly full of humans who had been invisible just moments before. "How?" whispered Velthari, the ancient ethereal. "How did you get past our defenses?" Dr. Kang Yerim stepped forward, her laboratory coat somehow looking more intimidating than any military uniform. "Your defenses were designed to stop the technology you knew about. We have been developing new capabilities for over 50 years. Your sensors cannot detect our ships. Your weapons cannot target our soldiers. Your shields cannot stop our weapons." Kim Dae-ho gestured to the empty seats, and the alien delegates slowly sat down. They had no choice. Their guards were helpless, their weapons were useless, and their confidence was completely shattered. 3 years ago, you gave humanity an ultimatum, Kim Dae-ho began, his voice echoing in the silent chamber. "You demanded that we abandon our colonies and retreat to Earth. You threatened to destroy us if we refused. Do you remember what I told you?" Kethmiron's crystal form dimmed with fear. "You said you would comply with our demands." "That is correct. And we did comply. In our own way." Kim Dae-ho smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. "You wanted us to retreat, so we retreated. You wanted us contained, so we allowed ourselves to be contained. You wanted us to disappear, so we disappeared." Jung Boram stepped forward, her diplomatic credentials still valid even after years of secret warfare. What you failed to understand is that humans are very good at giving people exactly what they ask for, even when it is not what they actually want. General Oh Sung-hwan activated a holographic display that filled the center of the chamber. It showed the galaxy as the Council had never seen it before. Red dots marked human bases in asteroid fields, around rogue planets, in the empty spaces between stars. There were thousands of them, surrounding every Council world, controlling every major trade route. While you celebrated your victory over humanity, we built a new civilization in the places you never thought to look, he explained. We surrounded you completely. Every Council world is within striking distance of multiple human bases. Every trade route passes through space we control. Every communication relay can be disabled at our command. The display zoomed in to show Council patrol fleets being tracked by invisible human ships. It showed the Underground Railroad evacuating refugees from Council oppression. It showed human agents working inside Council government buildings and military bases. Councillor Vexathara stared at the display in horror. The missing fleets, the equipment failures, the communication problems, all caused by us, General Oh Sung-hwan confirmed. We have been testing your defenses, studying your reactions, and preparing for this moment. Every incident you blamed on bad luck was actually a carefully planned operation. Dr. Kang Ye-rim continued the revelation. Our technology is now generations, ahead of anything the Council possesses. We can make our ships invisible to your sensors. We can disable your weapons from impossible distances. We can control your computer systems without you knowing we are there. Ambassador Zulketh found his voice. What do you want from us? Jung Boram smiled warmly, as if they were discussing trade agreements instead of the complete defeat of galactic civilization. We want to offer you a choice, just as you once offered us a choice. You can accept a new galactic order based on freedom and cooperation, or you can face the consequences of your oppression. Kim Dae-ho stepped forward again. For 3 years, you have ruled through fear and control. You have oppressed peaceful species, limited technological development, and crushed anyone who threatened your authority. That ends today. The holographic display changed to show human ships moving throughout Council space, not attacking, but taking control of strategic positions. Human forces were capturing military bases, protecting refugee populations, and establishing new governments on worlds that had suffered under Council rule. This is not conquest, Kim Dae-ho explained. This is liberation. The species you have oppressed are now under human protection. The worlds you have exploited are now free to govern themselves. The galaxy you tried to control no longer belongs to you. General Oh Sung-hwan's expression was stern but not cruel. Your fleets will be allowed to return to your home worlds. Your people will not be harmed, but your authority over other species is finished. The age of Council domination is over. Jung. Boram presented a data tablet to the stunned delegates. These are the terms of the new galactic order. All species will be free to develop their own technology, expand to new worlds, and govern themselves as they choose. Trade will be open and fair. Military conflicts will be resolved through negotiation, not force. Councillor Vexathara looked at the terms with disbelief. And if we refuse? Kim Dae-ho's smile disappeared. Then you will learn what happens to bullies when they meet someone stronger than they are. We gave you 3 years to prove that you could rule wisely. Instead, you became more oppressive, more controlling, and more cruel. The galaxy does not need rulers like you. The chamber fell silent as the Council delegates realized their situation. They were surrounded by invisible human forces. Their technology was completely outmatched, and their authority had evaporated in a single moment. How? Velthari asked again. How did we never see this coming? Kim Dae-ho walked toward the chamber exit, his mission complete. Because you made the same mistake that bullies always make. You confused fear with respect, control with strength, and oppression with order. When you forced us to hide, you created an enemy you could not see. could not understand, and could not defeat. As the humans prepared to leave, young Bo-Ram turned back to the council one final time. The galaxy is about to become a much better place. You can be part of that future, or you can be left behind by it. Choose wisely. The council chamber emptied, leaving the alien delegates alone with the ruins of their 1,000-year empire and the knowledge that their greatest victory had been their ultimate defeat.